Hey there, I'm Kathy with the Traveling Homesteader and Gyroscope Farm, and I'm sorry it's been a little bit. Ended up having some health issues. I'm just getting over another cold. Yucko. But today I wanted to talk about how we can kind of winterize our home to help offset our bills. Now, there are certain things that we can probably help offset and other things that are just a straight, like, out of our pocket financially. Now, where I live is in Oregon, and usually we have pretty mild winters. But every so often, we do get a little bit colder winter than normal. Now, I'm originally from Connecticut, where, we got snow. In New England, winter is winter, and it's always usually a pretty solid event. We don't have winters quite like that here in where I am in Oregon, in eastern or western Oregon. But in eastern Oregon, they do have cold winters because it's high desert and lots of snow. But today I want to kind of point out some different things that you can use to help winterize your home almost no matter where you are. And hopefully they'll be helping your electric bill in the long run, or a heating bill, whatever type of heating you have. Now you might notice behind me I have some curtains. I just finished these curtains the other night and hung them up, and they're my winter curtains. Although I can have them up year-round, I made them specifically for winter because they're insulated. And now hopefully they don't look like they're too far off base, but that's the first thing I decided to do to help with my winterizing. Now, the material on the front I got for $10 at St. Vincent's. And it was enough to do 2 panels. This is one, and then one's on the other side. And so I had enough to do 2 panels, but then I ended up having to buy the insulation material, which I was able to get at Joann Fabrics. Now, Joann's has it on a regular basis, and I've never not gotten it on sale, but I think the non-sale price is in the $30 range. I want to say $35 to $40 in there. But I was able to get the material for 40% off per yard, which ended up making it approximately just over $20 a yard. And this is what it looks like. So this is the back side, and it's kind of quilted, as you can see. And this is the wrong side, you might say. This is the right side. But there's several layers. And so there's a kind of a fuzzy cotton, and then there's a metal layer, and then another fuzzy, and then a finished off material. And with all this, the thickness of the 2 fuzzy cottons and the backing is enough of an insulator. But the thing that actually helps keep the heat in and the cold out, or reverse for summer, heat out, cool in, is this metallic material here. And I believe this is the same material that's in those emergency blankets that you might see in some first aid kits. And so I noticed when I was actually making these curtains that as I had this with the material on it laying over my legs, it was nice and snug. I was getting kind of nice and warm. So I know that this material will do me a good job. So, between the front material that you see here and this, and then up top, I ended up putting in grommets. It ended up being just over $100. Not quite as a savings as I was expecting. So remember, the material on the front was about $10 for about, I want to say about 3 yards total of material. And then 4 yards of this was $20 a yard. So it was $20, $40, $60, $80 for what I needed for this material. That was the kick in the pants. And then the grommets up top ran me about just over $20. So for about $110, I now have fully insulated curtains. Now this is my largest build item. It was more than I expected, really. But first of all, it's going to last me several years. Secondly, my goal is to have it bring down my winter electric bill by a decent amount, because while this is a nice window, it is a larger window. And hopefully I'll be able to put in a picture here that you'll see the whole thing. And it's really a nice window, and I have two sliding windows, so I can raise them up and down, so letting in the summer let the breeze come through and all. But there's a lot of heat that goes out this window just for the sheer size of it. So hopefully that'll help my bill out for heat this winter. Now I do have another large window that I made a different set of curtains for. A little different setup. You can also do like I ended up using a tapestry material up front versus this is a rather thin sheer material. So on the front of the ones I have upstairs are a tapestry, a little bit thicker material, and on the back is like a wool, felted material. And that's nice and thick too, and that's helped I've had that at 2 different homes, and that's really helped winters as well with my larger windows. So there's a couple of different ways to do some insulated window curtains or window coverings that you don't need to necessarily spend the $100 that I did, but that's really a nice setup. But you do need to put some money into it to help keep your bills down. Another thing that you can do to help seal off some windows is to use some of this. Now this is not going to cover your windows like my curtains do, but what this does is help insulate or reattach window seals around the actual windows. I have some windows in the back in my kitchen that I don't have any window coverings on that. But I noticed that the sealant was like around the edge of the window was actually falling apart. It was the window and the house were coming apart. And so I ended up using this, and this is an all-purpose acrylic latex caulk. Okay, that's what this is. And I ended up getting this. I think normally it runs roughly $2, $1 something to $2 something, just over $2. No more than like $2.25, $2.50. But because one of my local hardware stores was having an anniversary, they had a bunch of stuff on sale, and this was at 63 cents a tube. So I got a couple of these and was able to use one on both of the windows I have in back. So I sealed it. I just cut off the tip, had a caulking gun, and sealed off where I could. But I also added some of this. Now, this is a bit of an insulation connection too. So what I did was not only did I seal the window, but I added this, which is has a little bit of a cushion to it. And it has a little bit of a sticker, so you could kind of stick it in there. But I also sealed off around some of the larger openings or extenders within the window frame. And I just literally stuck this right in on the acrylic and just kind of came down and stuck it in. Now this, as far as the actual name of it, I just thought of it as like window sealant, you might say. Now I got this at a local discount store, an overstock store that has stuff from places like Costco and Sam's Club and all that. I believe that I got this for about $3 or $4, and it was about twice the size of this. Okay, so I ended up putting some of this around 2 of my windows. So about $5 plus the cost of the acrylic sealant. It wasn't over $6, and I still have leftover of this, which is good. So you can use this and this on several windows and help your heating costs go down, or at least not go out the window, to have those put in. Now, another way you can actually kind of cover your windows that's not necessarily with curtains is with some plastic. Now, this is a setup that I got at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. And essentially, it's clear plastic that's folded up here, and there's a little bit of a tape here. It's kind of a tape with a cushion to it that you essentially apply this to your window, and you put the plastic over your window and you seal around the edge. And then, as it shows in the picture, you take a hairdryer and kind of seal it, not necessarily seal it, but shrink wrap your windows. So it helps basically seal in some of the heat, having a little bit of a buffer. And while this, I'm going to try this year. I've been seeing people use this on their windows for years. But I suspect that this might not be the best plastic. And I suspect that a place like Home Depot or any one of those larger box stores, they probably have a similar kit, but with better plastic. So I'm going to see how this goes. I mean, if you're only wanting to do a season and try it out on 1 or 2 windows, I think this would probably work, and that's what I'm going to do. I have a window over here that's a smaller window that I thought I'd try this on just to see. Plus, it allows me to still have light coming through, whereas these curtains actually do block a lot of the light coming through. So these are actually also good for helping to keep light in or out. So like if you don't want to be seen by people outside, you can close this and it helps really block and reduce the light coming or going. Now, one other thing that I am going to do, actually I've already done, is I'm going to use some of this. And I got to tell you, this might be my favoriteest of all. It's spray foam. And this particular brand, I've not tried this one. I went to try this one without success. Now, this one in particular was left outside for about a year before I went and used it. My mom lent it to me. And all you got to do, essentially, is it comes with this little setup that has this little straw plus this this administrator, you might say. And usually it's just attached to the side of the container like this, okay? And then all you have to do is put it on, shake up the can, and spray. You shake it, okay? And you simply spray, and out comes this nice spray. It's foam, and so as it comes out wet, so you can kind of poke it in places. And I'll put here where I've kind of used mine. Around my door, there was a piece of wood paneling that came off, and it wasn't insulated. That part of the wall wasn't insulated, so I was losing heat out there as well. And so by spraying this in, and I actually got another one that was this size, and my canister that I got, it was maybe a month ago, cost me about $11. So it's a little bit more money, but there's a lot of spray foam in here, and it went a long ways. And what this does is it goes in wet and kind of glumpy, but then it expands. And you can put this in small spaces like mouse holes and just go and have it expand up the wall. Or you can put it in thinner spaces where maybe you might not be able to put in like different types of regular insulation. Like there's foam insulation or rigid insulation that you can use. And in fact, I'll be using some rigid insulation up in another spot. So that's yet another way to insulate in case you need it. But this spray foam insulation is good because you can stick it down into places that maybe you can't get into very easily. But like I said, you can also use rigid insulation. Now, most insulations do have what they call an R value. So the higher the number with the R, the better it insulates. So I ended up, just for kicks, because it was a bit cheaper for my budget, I just got what we jokingly call insulation. But it's basically styrofoam, and it's a thick styrofoam, about an inch or so thick, that's about, I'd say it's about 2 feet wide and about 8 feet long. And that's about the size of any of the rigid insulations. But the styrofoam that I got is not really defined as insulation, although it can act as something of a buffer. But you can get a regular rigid insulation, like the pink stuff. There's a pink insulation that I usually associate with the Pink Panther. Whatever brand that is, they have the Pink Panther on their pink insulation. And that rigid insulation was running, I wanted to say about $30, $35 per sheet of 2 foot by 8 foot rigid insulation sheets. And it went up from there. And I believe the R value on that was 5. So for about a 2-inch thick rigid insulation, it had a 5 value to it. And the R values kind of go up from there. Now, if you have the fluffy insulation that most houses have, that also has an R value to the insulation. And again, those are kind of different sizes, different thicknesses, and they have a loft to them. The fluffy ones. The one I'm seeing is yellow. But those have particles in them that as I understand it, you should always wear a mask with if you have the fluffy rolls of insulation that you're going to put in the walls, like bigger amounts of walls. So while these are different means of insulating your walls, I'm doing it in a way that is after my building has been built. So there are certain circumstances that you do need, like the rolls of fluff insulation that you put into walls. Like the wall behind me has rolls of some of this insulation within the wall. And something like this foam insulation can, if there's a hole in this wall that you can't get into, that's what this is good for, is to be able to kind of poke down and have it expand into the space. So that's why something like this is really good, because you can fill into smaller spaces or get into one little space to expand into a bigger one. And again, it helps with kind of keeping heat in or out as needed. Now, the last one I'm going to mention is maybe a little different and maybe a little old school. Some of us will have doors that have heat that comes or goes underneath. And when I was a kid, I don't know where the name came from, but we used to have what was called a door snake. And it was usually a tube filled with sand, and it would be kept at the door to help keep heat from going out the door or cold from coming underneath the door. Now, I have a door that the door jamb, the frame, the bottom part has sunk. And so there's a decent hole, a gap between the bottom of the door and the door jamb. And so for that, what I'm going to do is my version of the door snake with a pool noodle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pool noodle and cut it down to the size of the door, to the length of the door. And then what I'm going to do is sew some material to make it not hot pink. Now, if you like hot pink, go for it. But I'm kind of not much of a hot pink person. And so what I'm going to do is create a bit of a tube of material that I'm going to sew it around this. And then I'm going to add magnets so it can be magnetized onto my metal door. And by doing that, I don't then have to keep putting it back into place or have it get caught on something. And then when I'm done with it at the end of the season, I can just take it off my door and store it someplace else. So that's what I'm going to do with this, is create a bit of a snake, a door snake on my door, and kind of spruce it up with some material and just magnetize it on my door. And I'll probably do it on my back door as well, because there's a problem with that one too. But these are some different things that I'm kind of winterizing my house with. And crossing fingers that by doing this combination of things, I will actually reduce my heating bill, by a decent amount. Now, I'm not looking to have it by like 100%, but I'm looking to have a fair amount warmer than I normally would had I not done these things. And by getting a couple of these window plastic seals. I think I got 3 of them for $1.25, so $3.75. Plus getting a can of my spray foam at about $11. Getting my handy dandy pool noodle for $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. Those are the cheaper end of things. And remember, my bigger amount that I spent was on my windows or on my curtains for about $110. So for all the things that I'm doing, I've spent probably about $125 at most. And remember, $110 was on this one project. Oof. So you could probably do it even a little bit cheaper, but some of these things are going to be things that you can use over and over again and save on your bill. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. It'll help you. You won't have to spend it as often, and you'll kind of save money, hopefully, by having these items in your home. So I hope that some of this has helped you find some means and ways of being able to, seal your house off for the winter. And I know sometimes, like right now, a lot of people are kind of struggling. And so if we can find different ways to help share how we can save money, that would be great. So I'm interested in finding out how you save money in the winters by doing different things like this that may be good and helpful for other people as well. So if you can put down in the comment section below what you're doing this winter to help save on your heating bills, that would be great. I'd be interested in to hear what you do. And I appreciate you sticking around and stopping by again. And I'm glad that you were able to come to the end. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and come on back by to see what else we're working on.